It's empty now. And if you know about the horrible agony of the death that our Lord Jesus suffered on this cross, you have wept over it, as I have. I have wept today too, but my tears are tears of joy. I bring you news, the most wonderful news in the world. The grave of Jesus is empty too. You may find it hard to believe, but I have seen the Master with my own eyes, alive again and walking again on this earth. The disciples did not believe me. They thought I was hysterical with grief. But let me tell you what I have seen with my own eyes, just as it happened. As all the world must know by now, Jesus died 2 days ago, on Friday, the day before the Sabbath. We knew that Joseph of Arimathea had provided a tomb for him, and we marked the spot, for there was not enough time to anoint his body properly for burial before the Sabbath day, and of course we could not do it on the Sabbath. But we gathered and prepared spices, and this morning, very early, before dawn, a group of us women went to the tomb. James's mother, Mary, was there with us, and Salome and Joanna. And as we walked, we asked one another how on earth we were going to deal with the huge stone which had been rolled in front of the tomb. We knew that the temple guards had placed a watch of soldiers at the grave, and I was hoping that they might be willing to help us and to let us complete the burial preparations. After all, they were only there to see that no one stole the body. His enemies remembered he had said he would rise from the dead, and although they didn't believe it, they were afraid his disciples might steal the body and pretend he had risen. Wasn't it strange that his enemies remembered that saying, and his friends had all forgotten it? But as we walked, we felt the ground tremble beneath us, and when we reached the tomb, to our amazement we saw that the soldiers were gone, the stone was rolled away, and the grave was empty. My first thought was to go and fetch the disciples. I left the other women there and ran almost all the way to the place where Simon Peter and John were staying, and shouted to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." Well, both of them went racing for the tomb. John got there first and waited for Peter, and together they went into the tomb and saw the burial clothes lying there like the chrysalis of a butterfly, empty. They puzzled and puzzled about it, but could not throw any light on the situation, and finally they left. And none of us knew at that time what had become of the soldiers. After Peter and John left, I stayed behind. I just couldn't bring myself to leave. The other women had gone also. I talked to them afterwards and found that while I was fetching the disciples, they had seen an angel who told them Jesus had risen from the dead. But at that moment, standing alone outside the tomb, I knew nothing of that. I knew only that the Master whom I had loved so dearly had died, and that I was not even going to be able to perform this last loving service to his poor shattered body. As I stood in the garden, weeping, I looked once again into the empty tomb, and suddenly I saw 2 figures in white seated at the head and the foot of the place where Jesus' body had lain. They spoke to me, saying, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And I answered, "They have taken my Lord away, and I don't know where they have put him." Then I turned around, and there was another figure standing behind me, between me and the sun. He also asked me why I was crying. I couldn't see his face, which was in shadow, and I thought it was the gardener, so I said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." And then Then he said just one word. He called my name, Mary. And I knew. Rabboni, I cried, and I threw myself at his feet. I can't even begin to describe what it was like. He was alive, the same, yet not the same. There was a glory about him. He said to me, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Then when I looked up, he was gone as suddenly as he had come. Somehow that didn't surprise me at all. I was too full of joy at his return, too overwhelmed with the magnificence of it. Death had not been able to hold him. Death to him was no more than a door through which he could come and go at will. And his words meant for us, his disciples, that death would lose its terrors, for it would be only a way for us to go where he had already gone before us. I went as he had bidden me, and told the disciples what had happened. The other women had already told them about having seen the angels, but they didn't believe any of us. It's hard to blame them. I'm not sure I could have believed it myself if I had not seen it. But you believe, don't you? You have our words, our witness, and we are telling the simple truth. Later the disciples believed, but not until they had seen him. But Jesus has said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." I invite you to that belief this morning. Gather in that blessing for yourselves. I promise you, your life will never be the same again.